one of the main things we did in Iraq, as well as moving a lot of the troops around, was Eagle VCPs. And Eagle VCPs, it's a term that was actually mainly used in Northern Ireland back in the day, which is where a helicopter would land on a road, all the troops would run out the back, and they would then patrol the road or stop some vehicles, known vehicles, or search for weapons, that kind of thing. So we would do a lot of that in Iraq, and we would go and land on some of the main highways. The RAF regiment, it was at the time, would run out the back, and they would then search some of the vehicles and look for weapon caches, essentially, or anyone who's up to bad things. But it meant that we had usually like 15 minutes, maybe half an hour to fill in the air while they were doing that. So we would just have to go off and make use of our time. So that generally became stunts and having a laugh and kind of learning how to fly the Chinook on a pin, really. So I don't know if you've ever seen the Chinook display that's doing the rounds at the air shows. So a lot of the manoeuvres that you see the Chinook display doing, those are the kind of things we would be practicing in our 30 minutes of playing around. So essentially just pirouetting around the sky and learning how to quick stop. And a quick stop is a thing where you essentially bring the aircraft, just what it says in the tin really, to really, really quick stop. So you basically pull the nose up and arrest all the speed very quickly. So you can land next to the troops if you spot them late. So that's what kind of practice that maneuver for. Yeah. And sometimes we have to do a wing over, which is essentially we have to turn the whole aircraft 180 and then do the same thing, a quick stop. So we practice all those kind of things. And a thing called a gurney, which is essentially where you corkscrew out of the sky or up through the sky, which the Chinook display does. But yeah, so we have a lot of fun doing all that. But the best thing that we used to do was a thing called bunting. And bunting is where the pilot essentially climbs the aircraft and then drops the lever. So the whole aircraft becomes weightless. So you essentially become an astronaut for a couple of minutes. And we've had crewmen who have managed to make it the whole length of the cabin, like Superman, because you essentially are completely weightless. Yeah. Wow. We always warn that if we've got any troops on board, warn them we're about to do it, because they either want to tighten their seatbelts or some of them just loosen them off and they lift up off the seats and kind of hover in the air. But I remember doing a bunt and looking out into the 6 o'clock of the aircraft, and off the back of the ramp, all of the rounds from the M60 that we had fitted were like hovering out in the airflow as they had got weightless and decided to depart the gun. So I very carefully had to fish them all back in, hoping that the band of rounds didn't break and I didn't lose any over the ramp, which would have been pretty bad news for me. So
yeah, definitely.
But it was great fun. The engineers used to hate it because we'd land on and they'd open up all the cowlings on the aft pylon and there would just be oil everywhere, because obviously that all gets weightless as well. So that used to come out of all the sumps. And they'd always say, have you guys been bunting? And we'd be like, no, don't know what you mean. Just turbulence. So yeah, bunting's quite good fun.